Thanks everybody and welcome to the inaugural Sales Hacker event here in Austin. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Seth List, run market development over at Humboldt. I want to give a shout out real quick to our sponsors in attendance. Throw your hands up so we know who you are, but Betts Recruiting, welcome guys. We've also got Dropbox here. Sean and the crew from Sales Loft. So you can thank these folks for the tasty pizza and the delicious beer. I'm playing MC tonight, so I'm going to make some introductions and then get out of the way, but I want to welcome our first speaker who's got a passion for creating efficient engines of growth for SaaS companies, a gentleman by the name of Lincoln Murphy, who runs customer success at Gainsight. So put your hands together for Lincoln.
Help.
What's that saying? Some technology. If you want to do a quick intro yourself.
Sure. All right, cool. So my name is Lincoln Murphy. Really happy to be here. With a company called Gainsight, and we do customer success management. How many of you have heard of customer success management? All right, cool. About half of you, so we need to step it up a little bit. I want all of you to know about it. Oh wait, you will after I'm done. So I'm going to talk about not so much about customer success or customer success management tonight. I'm going to talk about what we're doing to sort of spread the word about customer success management and get customers on board. But I'll go ahead and give you a little bit of what customer success is about. Essentially, customer success is what it says. It's helping your customers be successful with your product. It's helping them achieve their desired outcome. And customer success management software like Gainsight helps our customers actually help their customers be successful. It helps them manage that process. And let's see. All right, cool. So I'm going to talk about lead generation and list building a little bit. Okay, cool. So, there we go. Why is it going? I didn't put any autoplay. All right. So is it going to go through? So I heard a comedian say once, it's not about, like you go out on stage and you trip on the way out there. It's not about how you start the set, it's how you finish. So don't worry about it, just go out, do your thing, finish strong, and I'm hoping to finish strong really soon now because I'm really embarrassed. Why is it not, can I back this thing up? All right, so I don't know if it's gonna autoplay. So follow me on Twitter at LinkedIn. All right. Follow me on Twitter at Lincoln Murphy. Also, I'm going to talk about some things today. This is like fat. You know why it's like? Okay. Yeah, I mean, I might have to just hit this really hard. Like literally, like your computer. All right. All right. We'll just do this. All right. I'm going to talk about a bunch of stuff really fast. So I put together a resource guide at 16ventures.com/saleshacker. 16 Ventures is my consulting company. It's what I did before I joined Gainsight. It's what I've been doing for a long time. So I want to talk about Gainsight really quick though. So we do customer success management. Mostly enterprise SaaS companies are our customers, those with subscription revenue models. We are in the position of essentially creating a new product category. Okay, so customer success management as a product category is relatively new. Customer success management as a function of business is relatively new. And so we're out there, even though we have the backing of some of the top venture capital firms in Silicon Valley, even though, I mean, these are, we have rock stars in our organization, all that stuff. The bottom line is customer success management is still something that people don't know they need, and they don't know that they have a problem that they need to solve. They don't know how to solve the problem. They don't know that we're the one to help them do that. And that's something interesting that I'm going to bring to this conversation. But also through my company, 16 Ventures, this is just a logo slide I grabbed. This isn't all of them. I mean, I've helped hundreds of SaaS companies over the years personally with their growth. And I've seen companies like Gainsight that were doing something brand new, and I've seen companies and worked with companies that were not really doing something new. We're just kind of doing something a little bit different. And I think both of those are things that we have to take into consideration when we're talking about lead generation, and I'll explain more on that in a second. But just so you're not like, well, we're not like Gainsight, and you kind of check out while I'm talking. Don't do that, because I think I'm coming at this from a relatively uniform way of looking at this stuff. What we're going to cover today is lead generation versus lead capture, identifying your ideal customer, entering the conversation that's already going on in your customer's mind, and then I'm going to give you some secret sales hacks that should help you. So some tactics there at the end. But I think these first three things are big picture things that are going to help you make those tactics a lot more effective. So lead generation versus lead capture. I talked about this before. I wrote something on inbound.org, which was about demand generation versus demand capture. A lot of people just think about demand generation, or in this case, we're thinking about lead generation as just this. It's the same thing in every situation. And if you leave here having heard nothing else that I say, take this with you. Think about this. When you're thinking about your customers, think about lead generation as being something that we literally have to go out and generate interest. We have to go out and generate leads where they do not already exist. That's a really different thing than simply capturing leads that are already out there in the world, that are, there's already demand out there, and we just sort of have to siphon some of that off for us. That's a really big idea that I know a lot of people kind of miss out on. And I think one of the best ways to sort of delineate this a little bit more is to talk about startups versus small or just early businesses. Startups are defined a lot of different ways. They're searching for product market fit, or they're searching for a repeatable business model, or what have you. Small businesses, regular businesses that are just early, are ones that are using established business models. The product market fit has already been established by other companies out there. You're just kind of jumping in. And it's really important to have that distinction. And a couple of examples that are important to, I think, will help you sort of delineate would be, the first one would be like an innovative company that's creating a new product category, like we're doing at Gainsight. We're really inventing something, right? That's something that doesn't really exist. I mean, there's a couple of other companies out there, like Frontleaf, but there's other than that, there's not a lot of companies out there, not a lot that's really going on. The market really doesn't exist yet. And then there's companies like Zenefits, and if you're not familiar with Zenefits, it's one of the fastest growing SaaS companies ever. They're disrupting an established market, but it's very staid, and they're really doing some very, very big and interesting things. And so we have to take into consideration that the market may exist. I mean, there are people out there that should buy Gainsight. There are people out there, companies out there that should have a customer success management platform, but they don't know it. And they don't know that we exist, and they're not looking for us. And that means that we have to go out there and do the lead generation thing. Now, some of you may be hearing this and thinking, yeah, but that's why we have BDAs and SDRs and all that stuff. We know that, that's why we're here. But a lot of times we just sort of say, you should have a BDA or a group, or you should do this stuff. And the reality is you don't always need to do that. If the demand is already out there, if the leads are already coming to you, you just need to have effective ways of capturing them. That said, marketing really does accelerate this process, right? So all of the outreach that's required has to be sort of backed up by and otherwise accelerated by marketing. When you send out a cold email, even if you don't have a link or anything in there, you're trying to start a conversation, they might take the domain off of your email address, go to that, they might Google your company, they probably will, and they're going to find your marketing assets, and if that's not backing up what you're saying or otherwise is undermining what's going on, you're going to have a problem, right? So you have to have that alignment. Ultimately, lead generation, the generation part is really going to have to be something that educates. You're going to have to go out and disrupt what's going on in their world. Like I said, they may not know you exist. You're really going to have to come out and get in front of them and make sure that they know what's going on. One of the things I say is they may be praying for you to exist. Right? They may be praying for a solution to exist, but they may be praying to like the universe. That you'll just show up. They're not praying to Google, right? They're not really going out and looking for you. Non-startups, on the other hand, these are just companies that already, again, their product market fit has already been established. They may be doing something better, faster, or cheaper. Hopefully, just two of those than the organizations that are already out there. But the market has already been established. There's known characteristics. They know, you know who they are. They might even know who you are. You just have to basically go out and siphon off some of the existing demand. Non-startups can rely on capture. Again, the demand is already out there. They're coming to you. All you have to do is be able to capture those leads. Obviously, outreach can accelerate that. So, non-startups can go out and accelerate their growth by having both of these things. True startups really have to have both of these. And so lead generation versus lead capture are very, very important. Identifying your ideal customer, I'm going to kind of try to speed this up a little bit. So I apologize for talking kind of faster, but ideal customer profile is something that I've put together that I think is incredibly powerful in helping you figure out who you're going to go after. First and foremost, ideal customer profiles that you create are situational. What that means is, if you wanted to solve for, let's say, you always want to have that situational awareness like you're a survivor. If you go out and say, look, for the next 90 days, we want to go out and get X number of new customers or X amount of new revenue, or we want to have this many new advocates. Then the situation is 90 days and whatever that goal is. Then you define an ideal customer for that particular situation. Why is that important? Well, if I wanted to get 10 advocates, so people that would be willing to give a testimonial for me. So I want to go out and get logos that are going to get other logos. If I'm going to do that, then my ideal customer for the next 90 days probably would not be like government contractors who can't even talk about the fact that they're doing business with me, right? I want to eliminate those folks from my target list. In fact, I want to go after customers that I know have been advocates for other companies that they've done business with. Ideal customer profile, first thing is that it's situational. The next is that it has these 7 different inputs. Ready, willing, and able, relatively easy to understand. These are customers that are ready, willing, and able to do business with you. The other 4 inputs, success potential, acquisition efficiency, expansion potential, and advocacy potential, start to make more sense based on probably some of the things I just said. Success potential is kind of important. Gainsight runs on Salesforce. We're a Force.com product. I'm probably not going to spend a lot of time going after customers that don't use Salesforce, right? So you start to really be able to identify an ideal customer when you can kind of nail some of these things down. So success potential is huge. Also, there's probably things you know about your customers, your best customers, that would help you say these are the customers that have been able to achieve success or their desired outcome with our product. I want to go after more companies like that. And then the rest of these, and of course at 16ventures.com/saleshacker, you can deep dive into my ideal customer profile. This is why this is all important. You can't know what marketing channels, what pitch to use, what pricing to use, or what messaging through all of the different modalities to use until you're clear on your ideal customer profile. At least that's my stance on it. I think it's critical to know who you're talking to. If you try to have a message that's all things to everybody, it's going to be really hard to ever connect with anybody. And so I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but I'm sure we've all sent emails to a whole bunch of people that were kind of blanket, that didn't say anything to anybody in particular. And guess what? The results were probably not what we wanted. So the proper order is to define your ideal customer profile, then do persona development, and then empathy mapping and everything else that comes along. It's easy to say, well, we're going to go after the CMO of an organization, but if you don't know the ideal customer that they might fit into, it's going to be a problem. The CMO of a small organization is going to be a very different person. They're going to have very different things going on in their world, have very different goals and everything than the CMO of a very large organization. So you have to be careful. Doing this also helps you keep in mind that you need to qualify the company and not the contact. And sometimes we fall into that trap. So again, 16ventures.com/saleshacker. You can deep dive on that. And this is a relatively quick section. This is so powerful into the conversation that's going on. So customer success, I talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but customer success is helping your customers achieve their desired outcome through the use of your product. Very simple. Something like Gainsight helps you manage that process. This dude, Robert Collier, in 1937, he was like a direct mail marketer way back a long time ago. Like the late 1800s was his heyday. Then he wrote this book, and he said, enter the conversation already taking place in your customer's mind. And sometimes I think I should just leave like the date off of this and stuff and be like, he's just an internet marketing guru. But the thing is, this hasn't changed. This is still incredibly true. And so if we think about this, success equals their desired outcome, then the topic of conversation in their mind, very simply, is their desired outcome. The whole thing's supposed to be underlined. The really important thing is to remember this happens, the conversation that's going on in their mind, their desired outcome is both at the company level and at the persona level. The company is going to have a desired outcome for the use of a product. The individual personas that you're reaching out to, your individual buyers, are going to have a desired outcome for the use of the product. And it may not match the desired outcome of the company, right? So when you're talking to these people, you're saying, hey, we're going to help you increase sales, we're going to help you grow your customer revenue, we're going to do all these things. But the person you're talking to is really just, the only thing they care about is checking off some things on a list, then you're kind of missing out. Also, if you're selling to smaller companies where maybe you're literally selling to the owner of the company, you can do things that are more emotional about, you're gonna be able to tie into the emotional aspects of whether or not they're successful or not. And you're not gonna be able to really do that so well with larger companies. Okay, so some tactical things. Hopefully those a little bit bigger ideas make these tactical things a little bit more, help you make these things a little bit more effective. One is prospect segmentation. We all know about that, but how many of us really do that effectively? We can't treat all prospects the same. Don't spray and pray. A couple of things you can do is segment by industry, and then what I suggest is if you're sending emails out every morning or every day to a particular industry, have your sales ops person or have somebody in your communications group, marketing, go in and maybe update the template every morning with something that that came out about that industry. It's not always possible. It doesn't always make sense to do that, but it can help, especially in industries where things are really, really changing rapidly. The other thing to do is maybe segment by revenue potential, and then have have people actually spend some time, focused on researching those high value potential customers. Sometimes we tend to look at the initial sale value of a company, and we don't really think about the potential there. And the potential is really what's most important. And I just want to reiterate that emails sent are not necessarily the same as deals closed or revenue generated. And sometimes we focus so much on these metrics that don't really matter. And we're like, I don't want to take the time to do the research on these companies and provide more context, but because it's going to hit on this, it's going to reduce this vanity metric that we're so focused on. But the reality is it's a vanity metric. It doesn't matter if it's not closing deals. So that's important. Here's a hack that I actually published on Sales Hacker that I really like. It's called co-outreach. Really simply, you find a company that you don't compete with that basically shares the same ideal customer profile as you. And so again, maybe it's for this particular situation. And you get to know them. You get them to know, like, and trust you, so they'll be willing to introduce you to their customers, and the same in reverse. You then identify some customers, maybe 10 or so, that would be perfect for the other company. and they do the same for you. And then you introduce each other to your customers. It's pretty high-tech stuff, but it's amazing because it's a warm introduction, and you do it in a way that says, hey, I think this product would be good. And this is a great way to accelerate if you're doing any sort of integrations with other companies. This is a great way to take advantage of that. What's cool is it doesn't require necessarily like a lot of really high-level coordination that co-marketing often does. So pre-targeting and retargeting, I'm a big believer in warming up leads before you reach out. A lot of times people like to jump the line. They like to sort of not follow the process, and they're like, I don't want to do this stuff. I just want to send a bunch of emails. It's like, okay, well, I thought you wanted to close deals, but whatever. So I want to warm them up. I want to use, I can use content distribution. I can, the marketing department can take content and make sure that it's, guest posts or whatever on places that my audience already sees, places they read, people they trust, newsletters, blogs, whatever. I can use custom audiences. If I have a list of emails before I send emails to people, I'm going to create some custom audiences with those emails on Facebook or Twitter, and I'm going to show ads that I don't even care if they click on. That's not the point. The point is to get my brand in front of them. I might reach out with non-sales things. I might have people from my organization reach out to do research or ask questions or just get to know people before I reach out. And then keep them warm. So, well, great thing is if you get people, you send emails to your prospects, and then let's say you include a link and they go to your website, but they never interact with you. Well, make sure that your website has a retargeting pixel on there so that you can then target them when they're either on the different social networks or different other sort of offsite properties. Nurturing, basically, don't stop sending emails to people. Don't stop following up until you get them to say, don't bother me anymore. But don't just send like sales follow up. Send them really relevant content so that they're always you're always top of mind. And then progressive profiling. So every time they do something on the site, every time they go back, they look at one of those pieces of content, you're adding to that. One of the things we do at Gainsight is to say, here's the last 5 interesting moments on the website that this lead did. And every time they hit 5 interesting moments, we're always updating Salesforce, but we actually notify the sales, the AE that owns the account, just to say, hey, just so you know, they did some stuff. And that's it. I go into a lot more detail on 16ventures.com/saleshacker. Again, follow me at Lincoln Murphy. I think we have some time. Do we have time for questions?
Yeah, I'll take 3 or 4 minutes of questions.
Okay, cool. Anybody got any questions on this stuff? First of all, how do you do a presentation? I don't know. No idea. How did I do for my first time, guys? It's so sad. I do this all the time. Yeah.
So talk a little bit about pre-warming using custom audience and target audiences. So if you're not measuring success by conversion, how are you going to measure success, right? Without A/B testing of some sort.
Oh, okay. So the question is, if I take an email list and I do custom audience with that, and I'm running those ads, how am I going to know if they work or not? Okay, I don't. But it's going to cost like 7 cents. So you might as well do it. I mean, all it is just getting your brand in front of them. Now, you might want to have it go to a place that, if they click it, it's good. But yeah, it's so cheap. I mean, we're talking. I mean, I wouldn't take all of your entire list, and do this because again, we want to be segmented. We want to be targeted. But if it's the people that I'm going to reach out to in the next week, I kind of want to show them some ads before I reach out. So a lot of times, I said you don't want to jump ahead. You don't want to not go through this process. Talking a couple days. You do a couple of days of pre-targeting like that, and then you email them. It's just all we're trying to do is get in their head a little bit, so that they're like, oh, okay, I think I've seen these guys somewhere, right? It's a great way if you're brand new and you have no brand or you have nothing out there, right? It's a great way to do that. Yeah.
How do you handle the coordination between sales and marketing in that case? How does the AE know to contact marketing to target and vice versa? How does marketing tell the AE to then go after that prospect? Use a tool for that, or is there just a process you guys have?
Yeah, I mean, that's just a process. That's another one of the fun coordination things that happens between all the different groups. Really, in that case, it's going, maybe even that's a function of an advanced sort of SDR group that they're handling that. Because other than maybe having a creative design, that doesn't really have to play into a lot of the marketing campaigns that we're doing. It's just something that's out there. And maybe even you would reuse the creatives that are out there and just have somebody that can go take that list, upload it, and run the campaign.
So we do something similar, and the way that we do it is we pull a report. So we pull a report of all outbound generated leads from the most recent 7, 10, 20 days, and then we target those up to a certain point, and then we turn them to another targeting campaign. It's a simple report that just says what's the ID, like the lead ID, right? Is it outbound? And then we pull all those, and then we say who's the most recent, and then we send it to them. So I would imagine you guys do the same.
Yeah, I mean, you can get really, really complex with this stuff, and I think the main thing to do is just start doing it. I'm going to mail these people in 3 days, so I'm going to take this and show them just my logo. That's it, and then kind of go from there. Any other questions? Oh, we got one more. Is that cool?
Yeah. So when you're segmenting and personalizing, it's really important when you're doing that consistent outreach and you want to really add value. How do you do that in Boston, reaching out to 200 people, 300 people close to a week? How do you consistently make sure you're providing value when you do those follow-ups?
So the question is, how do we consistently add value when we're doing the follow-ups? How do you do it at scale? I'm a big believer in not starting questions with will it scale? Okay, I want you guys to just go do this. Just figure out, like, pick 10 people a week that you're going to email and try to have it be something that you do some research on, that you add something about the industry. And then what will happen is, if it starts to work, the question will change from will it scale to how do I scale this, right? And then you figure out how to make that work. How do we do that? Again, we actually very, very specific segments. So maybe it's like 10 or 15 or 25 emails for a very specific segment. And again, for high value customers, we'll spend some time and we'll actually go have the person, the comms person, actually go update the template in Yesware, and that's how it works. You're going to have to coordinate the stuff. You're going to have to figure out how to systematize it and operationalize it and all that stuff. But don't let that stop you from getting started. Okay, that's the main thing. Will it scale? Who cares? Just do it. So, really great tip, and then I'll go, is if you're worried about, like, how do I write a template? How do I write that first email template? Little trick is just send an email. And if it works, there's your template. Don't worry about, like, writing a template that we have to figure out how to scale. Cool? All right, thank you.
Let's give it up for Lincoln, guys. So between technical difficulties and the problem with the deck here, I'm going to keep it moving. The next speaker up is Adam Boyd from Market Sense. Let him do a quick intro and we'll keep moving. And the other thing is that we will be hanging out, if you want to, for networking after. So when we wrap up, if you have any additional questions for these guys, feel free to stick around and ask.
Can we get that slide deck? I have no idea what it is.
You just you can do it.
All right.
Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me without the mic?
Yes.
You can? All right, I appreciate it. So it's good to be with you. We do a lot of work with organizations on the issues of of the selling. So everything that you just heard, I love and I agree with, way above my pay grade. So I'm going to keep this very, very tactical. My biggest fear for most of you is that this may be too tactical. But I was asked to talk about list building, and I said I really don't know anything about lists, because everyone I call, 30% of the people have left or have died, and if it's greater than that, I'm doing okay. So I really believe that the value of a list is directly proportional to your ability to capitalize on what's on there and make the most of those conversations. Because obviously you want to have the right target, but the problem is most of the times we're running around chasing the perfect list, and I just don't believe those exist. But what I will do is give you some thoughts on how we go out and identify the people and then begin the conversation. Okay, this will be very, very tactical stuff. So, how does this work? Way above my pay grade here.
Take this with me if you want me.
Oh, sweet, yeah. Hit the next one. So the first thing we want to do is look at the standard ideal customer profile. Now, I want to differ here from a marketing perspective, more of a sales perspective. Most of the time, ideal customer profiles are far too vague. They're too expansive. How many of you in here can work networks to get to the people you want to talk to? Show of hands. Okay, so everybody else, you get a cold call? You don't have the network built? Well, here's the thing. If you can work a network, if you can work relationships, you want to be as incredibly specific as possible when trying to share with someone whom you want to meet. So if I'm talking to Lincoln and Lincoln says, who do you talk to? Well, most of the time what you hear are, I like to talk to CIOs or IT directors, or I like to talk to people in the healthcare industry. It's too big for most people in your network to help you. We want to keep it really small and targeted so that they can help you. And so that if you're calling on the company, the way Lincoln brings up, you know where to go in that company. You hit the next one? So, give you something we call the CAPS model for identifying your ideal customer profile. It's very tactical, especially if you're working with people who are in your segment. One, we look at the characteristics of your ideal customer profile. So for me personally, I'm typically talking to VPs of sales, CEOs, owners, or presidents of small to mid-sized companies, typically in Texas. Most of the time, they're in a B2B or high-end B2C sale. Now, when I talk to people, let's say I'm talking to Jonathan, we can start to narrow the scope of the people we're looking to talk to. And when I'm asking for introductions or referrals, he can actually start to help me because we've narrowed his world. If I say, hey, I'd like to talk to VPs of sales, well, that may be too big. The next thing I want to do is help him think through aggregation points. Sandler, our methodology, is predicated on buyer psychology. I want to help him go to that place mentally where he's going to know the people I'm trying to talk to. So if you think through your customer, where would they be? If Kevin's going to give you an introduction or he's going to help you out, where is he going to be running into those people? Too often we throw out the net and say, hey, I need somebody who needs my product. Well, can you at least help me think about where I might run into those people? Is it Capital Factory? Is it General Assembly? Is it Entrepreneurs Organization, YPO, Austin Technology Council? Be really clear on the aggregation points for people. And I can spend a few minutes talking about this afterward. The next thing you want to do is identify problems they experience from their perspective. Too often, we spend a lot of our time in the selling position talking about what we do, not talking about the problems they've got, they experience that they would share with someone else. Mine's pretty easy. The problems that my prospective clients are dealing with have to do with sales. There's increasing competition, there's turnover, right? They've got situations where margins are eroding. Those are easy for someone to identify for me. But what you want to do is say, what are the symptoms of the problems that I solve? And the last thing you want to do is, what are the substitutes somebody might be using instead of you? So if you sit down and have a conversation with one of your champions or your contacts, you can be very clear on the types of people you're looking to talk to, and they can actually make an introduction for you. The next one. So, and this is just an example of how we would put ours together. These are the types of companies and the types of individuals we'd be looking at. You the next one. Okay, now, I say hiding behind email is an issue because many of us in Gen Y, we grew up with technology, and so we find that that's easier than actually picking up the phone. I had never heard of sales loft till tonight. I think this stuff's actually genius. And if you're in sales and you're not using these types of tools and you're wasting your time trying to craft the perfect email, it doesn't exist. Email is a powerful tool to get you a conversation, but find someone who's an expert in that and offload it. Any of you using Connect and Sell or Connect Leader, any of those technologies, it's absolutely genius. These guys have set situations up, they'll have 4 people dialing for you, they guarantee you 5 conversations an hour. So leverage that sort of technology. But when it comes to email, I don't have any magic templates. People always ask us, hey, how do I get this unstuck? I say, well, you gotta pick up the phone and talk to another human being, right? You wouldn't ask your wife to marry you over email. I hope not. If you did, I apologize. Will you get the next one? So I love what SalesLoft is doing. They're leveraging LinkedIn. The email that I would recommend is identify second-level contacts through real first-level connections, right? We all know what a fake first-level connection is, right? You're just kind of connecting points, like it's World of Warcraft. You're out there just, hey, I'm getting connections. It doesn't matter. What I want is if I've got a good relationship with Charles, how do I get to the people he knows who are my ideal customer profile? How do I get to them? And what I'm going to do is ask for introductions. I'm going to say, hey, how well do you know so-and-so? And would you be comfortable introducing me? Now, the way to make that effective is write the copy for them, right? I'm sure you guys can do something like that too. So write the copy for them. People want to help you, but the email, the tagline at the bottom of your email that says, or not your email, but somebody else's, that says, hey, compliment or referrals, the highest compliment you can give me. People want to help, but we got to make it easy on them. Take the work out of it. Actually write your copy. How many of you want somebody else trying to sell your deal? They always screw it up. You want to manage the conversation as much as possible from the very beginning. So that's one way we got to get into an opportunity. Now, you're going to reach out, and then we're going to end up in voicemail at a certain point. True or false? True. Okay? Now, so some strategies on voicemail. I'll give you a quick one real quick. Here's one of the ones we use when we're running a campaign. We know that it's going to take between 6 and 12 attempts to reach someone. And the problem is 90% of people in sales are giving up after the second attempt. I had tried them, it didn't work. Okay? I was telling somebody today in one of our training sessions, look, I'm not a great three-point shooter, but I know they work. They do go in. So you can actually reach people via the phone. So here's some of the strategies we use, and this is going to upset some people because they're going to feel like it's dishonest. But when I make my first call and I'm trying to get in to talk to a VP of sales or a CEO, I start out and I say, hey, Jonathan, it's Adam Boyd. Sorry I've missed you. Hey, you can reach me at 512. I leave my voicemail, my phone, and I say, hey, the reason I was calling, and I just hang up. Now, some people feel that's hokey, but we get people calling us back. Hey, what were you calling about? I say, where'd the message get cut off? And so we just start a conversation. The goal is to get a conversation. Some people are like, that's kind of cheesy, but it works. I get people who get really mad at me. Second voicemail we leave, because we're going to end up there 2 to 3 days later. I call Jonathan. Hey, Jonathan, Adam Boyd, 512-293-6497. It's important we speak. And I hang up. I get 80% of my callbacks after those 2 messages. The third one, Jonathan, Adam Boyd, with Market Sense. I was doing some research on your company, found some interesting things, may have worked with some companies in your industry, maybe even direct competitors. You can reach me at, and I hang up. And then the fourth one, I say, I just leave my commercial, right? And you've all got a commercial, and I'll talk about that here in a second, give you a couple thoughts on that. And the fourth one is I just close the file. Right? This is kind of my last-ditch effort to make something happen here. But I'm going to say, Jonathan, it's Adam. Hey, we've not been able to connect. I'm getting the sense that there's probably nothing here in this conversation worth talking about. I'm going to go ahead and close your file unless I hear back from you. And you'll get people calling back saying, hey, don't close the file. Why? So we start the conversation. Yeah?
Do you do the same thing on email at the same time?
Now, I'm an agnostic on that. It's just not my expertise. I'm just trying to get the conversation. So I know some people who do. My experience is I have to sell to CEOs. And so I'm sitting here talking to CEOs and they're like, look, you got to get me on the phone. So look, if I don't have to fill out paperwork or type anything or write a contract, I'm going to avoid doing it. But if I had somebody like you doing it for me, I would absolutely do it. So I've got to have tactics and strategies to reach people and gain mind share. Voicemail can definitely be a tool. Now, you got to get to them. So most sales pitches are very eye-centered. They're full of jargon. I got to tell you, there's a lot of stuff out there. We start throwing around terms. No one knows what you're talking about, and don't take it personally. They don't care. So what I love what Lincoln said, and I want to piggyback on this, we've got to get into the conversation in their head, right? I got little kids. They're about to start school in a couple of years, and they're going to go to school, and they're going to worry what everybody thinks about them. And you know what? No one's thinking about them. Everybody's thinking about what? Themselves. So the key is we've got to change our commercials and our pitches to get into the conversation in your head. There was a great book written on this called Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath. It was written in 2004. Anybody read that? Go read that book. It's phenomenal in terms of the psychology they lay out. But if we go to a pitch that's more effective, 1, it's short. 2, it's punchy. We're in the day and age of Twitter. People don't have a 3-minute attention span. You've seen presidential debates. Those people keep a coherent thought for about 45 seconds. That's what our prospects have. So I want to give you a couple thoughts on how to template a commercial to reach your audience and make the most of it. 1, 10 words or less about what you do, because most people won't understand. How many of you are in some form of technology in here? Show of hands. When I talk to everyone about any form of technology, I run into multiple definitions of everything. And the problem is we miss each other and we make assumptions there. So one, keep what you do really short. Two, spend your time talking about the 2 to 3 most salient issues that your customers deal with. For me, when I talk to CEOs or VPs of sales, here's what they tell me. They're doing well, companies are growing, but the problem is their people, though they're working hard, aren't getting enough new opportunities. And as a result, the pipeline's not where it should be. Others are telling me the pipeline looks great, but they know only about 40% of what's forecast is going to hit. They just don't know which 40%. And as a result, it's unreliable. And they can't plan. And then I just say, is that worth a brief discussion? They don't need to know everything I do. They need to know, is this conversation relevant? So when it comes down to starting the conversation, we want to get inside their head and talk about the things that are most relevant so we can start a real conversation and you're not scrambling at the end trying to build value. Everybody says, well, how do you sell value? Well, you start with what they care about. Okay? So I want to reduce the pressure on you when you're getting in there by having a different conversation that's really focused around the issues they care about most. All right, that's all I got. I'll take any questions. None. That good? Oh, yeah. Ma'am.
Okay. So, yes, you are that good, but...
I was kidding.
When you gave your examples of the voicemails that you
Yeah.
left, you gave 5.
Right.
And you said most, and I know this as well.
Yeah.
Most people you don't actually get a hold of for 6 to 12
Sure.
reach outs.
Yeah.
So what's your game plan for the rest of them?
Well, one, there are going to be times I'm going to reach out. So you're going to, I'm going to be leaving these, I'm going to be trying to get there, right? Now, most people, I can't get them to give more than 5 voicemails. The other strategy we use is we start off very much like the important we speak, and we call them every day for 8 days straight. And I'll call day 1 of week 2 and say, Andrew, Adam, day 1 of week 2, having a hard time reaching you. Here's my number. And I will say that, I will go through a script like that for 8 days to reach somebody. And some people are saying, well, maybe they won't like me. I don't care. They're not going to be at my funeral. I am trying to get a conversation to build a relationship. And I got to tell you, I've reached CEOs, and I know I left 12 voicemails, and I finally reached them, and they're like, oh, it's you. I don't care. I got a shot now, baby. We're on the phone. And so that's my mindset. Yes.
So what do you do when they do call you back after that intentionally vague voicemail?
Yeah.
And you made 60 other dials that day.
Yeah.
And they're like, hi, it's John.
Hey, John. Okay, so I just say, hey, John, it's John, good to talk to you.
And then what? You called me off my voicemail.
Oh, gosh. I am not at my desk. I don't have my notes in front of me. What did I say?
Call you back.
What's that?
Call you back.
Got it. Okay, John, I'm guessing. Now, this is where you got to know your ideal client profile. So the thing I'd say is, John, you're president or CEO? And if you said yes, I'd say, okay, wait, but I'm not calling. If you're not a president or CEO, I wouldn't be calling you, right? So
what if you call all C-level?
Yeah.
And,
so I just
1 in 5 shot.
1 in 5 shot.
Because it's going to be CTO, CEO.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. If you do that, you've got to have a different strategy, right? I can't troubleshoot that, but I'd say, hey, typically I'm talking to people at the type of company you talk to. And here's what they're telling me. Should we be talking? It's just an opportunity to have the conversation. And we don't want to get too hung up on it, but most of the time, selling, we lose because we're not gutsy enough in those conversations. And we're so worried they're not going to like us. My man in the back.
So I think the voice messages are great. Do you have any specific strategies that you might have to get past a live gatekeeper, say an admin or someone?
Look, here's the thing. I'll tell you, I think if we're asking that question, sometimes it's that we get in the wrong spot, right? Now, here's what I'll tell you what I do, and it may not work for you, but one, I used to call and just say, if I'm calling Kevin and I want to get Jake answers, I say, Jake, it's Adam for Kevin. What's this about? It's personal. Right? I've had one person get mad at me in 7 years for saying that, right? I can't build a business case around that. But typically, everything you do in sales is based on how you sound over the phone. I can't tell you how many opportunities you're get into because you sound good. So everything I say is I'd call Jake and I'd say, Jake, it's Adam for Kevin. He'd say, what's this about? I'd say, oh, it's Adam Boyd. Because a gatekeeper's got two fears, keeping the wrong people out and letting the wrong people through. I got to play on one of them, right? And if they say, who are you with? I'm with myself. Can you tell Kevin that Adam's on the line? That gets me through 80% of the time. The other thing I encourage you to do, call early, call late. It's not rocket science, right? And I've just got to get to somebody. How are we doing on time?
Take another question.
Yes, ma'am.
What happens in certain markets when you have a very long sales cycle,
Mhm.
and it's almost, you're never ending selling. It's constant.
So are you farming a current account, or you're trying, maybe it's a 18-month sales cycle?
It's not quite that long, but it can be a 6 to 9 month to a year sales.
Okay, and they're not paying you anything in between. Okay, so here's my thought on this. How many of you are in really long extended sales cycles? Show of hands. Lose fast. Because the first person who wins in a long sales cycle is the person who finds out they're not going to get the deal. And so we work with a lot of companies selling to enterprise in long extended sales cycles, and they're spending tens of thousands of dollars chasing deals they've got no shot of winning. But the problem is they like me, and they told me it looks good. And therefore, I run back and we forecast that. Real story, working with a company here in town, they were selling to GE at the time. And if you sell software or large deals, they've got a playbook. And if you don't believe this, look up Picos. Picos was developed by General Motors in the 90s. It's how they developed a third of their profit in Europe, and they brought it over here to North America. It's a playbook that buyers use. Real quick, so here's what we tell people. You've got to find out that you're not going to win this thing as quickly as possible. And you want to qualify very hard before you make a go decision that we're going to invest these resources chasing this deal. You got to know their playbook and be very clear on it. Yeah.
So I like your phone hacks a lot.
Yeah.
Do you have any, at my job, we're a lot more email heavy right now, and we're using some of these phone tricks, and like what you said, do you have any corresponding email hacks that might go with your phone calls?
Here's the only one I got, right? And this is the only thing, because here's what I believe. I believe the email will get you in the door, but you got to be great there. And so we spend all of our time focused on, are you good in front of somebody? So let me say this, and I'll give you my one hack, right? Hack's a new word for me. So the challenge is you wouldn't start a great relationship with another human being and just live via email. I gotta get in front of that person, because if you're talented, if you're winsome, if you're charming, if you're funny, I can't communicate that with enough emoticons. Right? I gotta get you talking to people, because if there's a bad conversation, if there's bad news that has to be delivered, you want to do it. Right? 93% of all of our communication is not the words we use. So if you rely too heavily on email, then you lose your ability to win. I think it's a great way to get you in the door. Now here's what I do. If somebody goes dark, here's the email I send. I say, if they go dark, who's been there? Or knows someone else? I know it haven't happened to you guys, but other people that prospects go dark. So here's what I do. I send an email to Kevin. Maybe Kevin won't return my calls. I can't get him anything. Well, have fun with it, right? Just have fun with it. But here's what I say. I leave an email. I leave this voicemail typically, because they think it's funny and they call me back. Say, Kevin, hadn't heard back. It's been 2 weeks. We were supposed to talk last Friday. Typically when people haven't gotten back to me, it's for one of three reasons. One, the issue around sales and margin is no longer a problem. Two, you found another provider and you like them more and you've been too busy to tell me. Or three, you're trapped under a big rock and can't get back to me. And they laugh and they call you back. It sounds cheesy, but I've just got to humanize the engagement a little bit. So I want to encourage you, just develop those skills at winning the deal, because that personal relationship is what's going to keep you in the count and help you grow it. All right? Yeah, last one, I guess.
I've heard the cutoff for partner using myself. I'd just be curious to know anecdotally how many people call you back and they're pissed that it's a sales call.
Who cares?
I know, but I just was curious.
I don't get people that, because here's the thing. Anybody know any sports fans in here? All right. Anybody know who the Baltimore Ravens had a big defensive tackle named Tony Siragusa? The guy was huge, right? And here's his mindset, because this is what I believe is really important. I don't think it matters if people get really upset with you, right? But Tony Siragusa met a woman he wanted to marry, beautiful woman, and Tony's this huge football player, and no one likes, she just won't give him the time of day. And here's Tony's mindset: everyone else likes me, you will too. And it's like marrying the woman. I think in sales too often we don't take shots because we're worried people are going to be upset. Now, every now and then I get somebody's upset. But even if they're upset, for you as a seller or as an entrepreneur, it's an opportunity for conversation. And if they're upset, big deal. Just work it back in there. You're talented people. So that's my encouragement, is every now and then you'll get one person who's upset. Don't get worried about it. All right? You guys have been great. Thanks so much.
All right, stick with us. We got one more presentation from Kevin Nothnagel.
Got it.
Did I get it right? Cool. He's joining us from Dropbox. He manages sales development there. We're gonna go another 20 minutes or so, and then we're gonna do some more drinks and pizza, so stick around.
Thanks, Seth. Oh, that's loud. I have my wood buddy back because I think you're charming, and that was a great presentation. Thank you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of these concepts applied. I think Dropbox is in an interesting position right now because we're growing our sales team pretty aggressively. Oh, is this not working? Is this the clicker?
It's manual,
Okay, great. So yeah, demand generation, list building at Dropbox. We're growing quickly. We've just recently, I'd say, launched a sales team, considering how long we've been around. Many of you guys know Dropbox has been around since around 2007, 2008 is when we launched. And if you guys can see this okay, we've been on a pretty quick ramp in terms of our user base, but we've only started focusing on the B2B market really in the last 2 years. So we built a sales team with just 5 people in 2013. That was brand new to us. Sales is a foreign concept to a consumer company a lot of times. We just were growing organically. We didn't have to do much to get customers in the door. But once we launched our business product, we had to really start ramping and hiring salespeople. And so all this was pretty new to us, and we've been building out the team. And I think what you'll see here is a lot of the concepts that you guys are seeing applied to a fast-growing consumer brand that's made the shift to B2B. So it's a pretty interesting application of how one company has done a lot of what has been talked about so far. So when it comes to pinpointing our ideal customer, this is a challenge. We're talking about big picture customer profiling. We really can sell to any knowledge worker that exists in the world, right? Our company is global. We have an application with anybody who's doing work in sort of a modern fashion, not people sitting behind a cashier register, but really anybody behind a desk working on files, on storage. And these are people that have, their workflows have changed. They're working in mobile capacity. They're trying to access their files on their phone. They're trying to access their files on the go, in addition to sharing with their customers, sharing externally. So our customer profile really is anybody. How do we narrow that down? It's really kind of a challenge for us to figure out what beneath that, who do we want to be selling to. So, and we know we're very popular. We've already had a bunch of people adopt Dropbox in the enterprise because the traditional ways people have been sharing files and accessing their files, and the enterprise has been kind of poor, right? People have had flash drives. We've had to hand those back and forth. They've emailed CDs. I was working with the State Department for a little while. They said they had to email large DVDs back and forth. So they were asking me, could I use Dropbox? Well, it turns out it's pretty hard to sell to the federal government when you haven't done that before. So, but we're very popular. This is a ranking of how many people in the enterprise are using us and prefer us. So we're way up there. We know we're really popular, but no one's really paying for our service. So how do we start to motivate people to move from this consumer-free version of Dropbox that we're giving away towards more of a paid version, which we can monetize and is actually a better solution for companies? So right now, this is a chart. It's kind of hard to see here, but this is the number of people currently paying for a product like ours. It's about 18% of the market. Most people have no plans to use us. So we have this whole market potential where we need to wake it up and have our salespeople kind of going out there and developing the right people to call on. And really only about 6% or so of people are looking to evaluate a service like ours in the next year. So we have all these people that we have to find those 6 out of 100 people that we know are going to be looking at our service, as well as wake up all those people that maybe could start to use Dropbox as a business solution. So that's a challenge for us. We know we can sell to all knowledge workers. We know not every company is going to be looking for our tools, but we do have this freemium model, which gives us this really unique advantage when list building. So it's, right now we are in 4 million businesses. We know that 4 million people have registered for accounts with Dropbox, and they've done so with their work email address. So it's kind of a cool position to be in because we can then graph it out. We give our salespeople tools that say, this is the network of people that are currently have Dropbox accounts in a company. We see a high level view of that, and it shows how they're all connected and how they're all sharing information back and forth. And we know what it looks like too when somebody adopts our business product, so we can bring that story to the market. But we really focus on finding those people that have currently adopted our free product and then try to bring them into our business solution. So how does that work in practice? We're focused on reaching IT and line of business decision makers. So like you said, we're trying to pinpoint a pretty big pool of people, and that's almost too big. And really to tie that down and narrow that down a bit, we focused on a few different verticals. We figured out what are the verticals where our use case fits best, where are people collaborating a lot with external partners and sharing, where are people needing access to their files on the go, and where are people maybe using traditional ways of storing and sharing files that they could replace with something better like Dropbox. And it's really ranged from large to small. Our market, again, is very huge, but these have been our core categories that we've had our reps focus on as a way to make sure that we're not selling into areas where it's actually pretty hard to sell, like the government or like healthcare, where there's a lot of requirements that we haven't met traditionally. And the messaging we're going out to the market with talks a lot about our performance and how we are really well known and people know and like us, in addition to giving more security. So we're tailoring a lot of the messaging we use towards IT to make sure that they see that there's more security in using a business version of Dropbox. And then our focus is on giving AEs territory. So when it comes to them like taking their approach, we have all these regions broken up, and we have AEs and our SDRs getting leads from many different sources. I'm sure you guys all do too as well. But really kind of it all starts with that existing free adoptions. Our folks are making the list of who to call on based on the account book they're given and how many people are already using Dropbox already within their organizations, and they would benefit from moving up into the more secure and business solution. And around tools too, I mean, one of the topics on the agenda that it was said to cover was just some of the tools that we're using that we're finding beneficial when doing some of this outreach. We're a Salesforce shop. These are some of the other tools that we're using that I find pretty cool. If some other folks used any of these in the room, like, has anybody heard of SendBloom yet? Maybe some people in the back. SendBloom's kind of cool for our SDR group, especially because it manages a lot of and it automates a lot of the prospecting, where if you want to say, email somebody once, but you want to make sure you're getting those multiple touches on people, but you don't want to have to think about doing it yourself, it automatically bumps your email, it automatically replies to people, and it automatically kind of keeps hitting on people until you get a response. We're seeing some great response rates from that. We also do a lot of work with some of the traditional tools just to identify who to contact as well, like RainKing. That tells us, okay, they have an IT project in the works for them wanting to buy something that's equivalent to what we're doing. So we're putting a lot of these tools into place, but for us, like being a new B2B sales team and growing, it's kind of a fun time where we are, for the first time reaching 70 people in our sales org, whereas we have kind of a huge opportunity to grow from here. So that's the high level view of how we've applied kind of the list building. I won't do that, but we are growing. But that's sort of a high level view of how we've applied some of these concepts and approached the market and kind of put that into place for our team. So went fast through that because I know you guys probably want to get back to drinks, but any questions about how Dropbox is approaching the task at hand of demand generation and list building?
So have you segmented your teams based on either those verticals or the market segments to give your SDRs or BDRs some focus in kind of owning the ideal customer profile for their segment of business?
We've done that two ways. So the question for those that couldn't hear it is, do we verticalize essentially, and do we have like a vertical market where we have particular AEs and SDRs focused on that market? For education, yes, because education is extremely unique and the deployments we've had with them are pretty customized. But for a lot of other markets, we just do vertical enablement, where we have resources prepared for each individual rep to then call on specifically to meet the needs and pain points of those markets. So we have like full vertical guides for each of our top priority verticals. Any other questions?
I guess the question has to be asked, was it always preconceived that you would be giving the product away for X amount of years and then start charging people, or was that always the notion, or did you try to sell it and nobody would buy it and then you gave it away and then send everybody? I love it, you know.
Oh, good, good.
I get it.
Yeah.
As an owner, you know, the founder of the company, I don't know why.
Good, yeah. I mean, it was a unique position to be in because the product did meet so many consumer needs that we took off, right? And it wasn't immediate. I mean, there were times when I'm sure that the company thought that there wasn't this big of a future, but it occurred to us later that, you know, based on all the data we saw of how many people were registering with their work address, just how big our market opportunity is. So it is pretty unique to Dropbox, but there are other companies that can apply that freemium model. I think of Slack. I mean, what was it? Last week they're at $1 billion valuation. This week they're at a $2 billion valuation. And they're giving their product away and it's just going viral. Everybody's using it because it's so easy to use and it's so almost fun to use in the workplace. And Dropbox kind of did that same thing where we just offer that additional premium functionality from our business version. And that's our lead in to get to sell to a lot of companies. So I don't know that it was preconceived, but it worked out pretty well so far. Yeah, in the back.
What's your product marketing relationship in those templates that you're talking about, or the particular materials that you put out from a verticalization standpoint? You have a strong product marketing team that helps you create that content, validate it? Is it tops down, ground up, and hybrid in between?
Yeah, that's a great question. The question is about how we work with product marketing on sales enablement. A lot of that has been horizontally focused so far. They've given us a lot of the collateral to say, this is the best way to go about reaching customers that have these certain set of pain points around file storage, file sharing, collaboration. And so they've given us a lot of horizontal resources to date. And then they give us like a vertical playbook where they say like, these are the common roles in an industry. These are the common, in terms of getting inside of the mind of a buyer, this is how they think, this is how they, these are some of the challenges that they might face if you're in IT at a construction company. Your people are going to be in the field and they're going to hate logging into your VPN to get access to their files. So they give us a sense of that, and I think that helps our reps sell. And then case studies obviously are huge for us too, like getting good customer stories out there. We have big initiatives around like telling good customer stories, because I mean, speaking of emotional impact from selling, like that's the way we do that. We say, this is a use case of somebody I've worked with where I solved a big problem for them and look, they got promoted or something like that. So we're selling both to the pain that the company's feeling and also to the benefit that the individual proponent of your product might have as well. Yep. Any other questions? All right, guys, thanks.
So I just wanted to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I look around the room and I see a lot of familiar faces, friends and colleagues, and I think it's pretty awesome to get this many sales folks in a room together, share ideas. It didn't go perfectly smoothly, but hopefully you had a good experience, you learned some things, you meet some new people, and you come back for the next one. So shout out again to all our sponsors here tonight. We've got Dropbox, Sales Loft, and Bets Recruiting. I know all these folks personally, and if they won't do their own shout out, I will. There's some awesome things going on with all of them. If you don't know about them, check them out. I'm going to give Sean a chance to step up here. Sales Loft is actually a national partner for Sales Hacker. They're doing some awesome stuff, and he and his colleague flew out here from Atlanta just for this event. So I'm going to let him say a few quick words, and we'll get back to the booze.
Awesome. Thanks, Seth. So everyone have a good time? Yeah. Yeah, give it up for Adam, Kevin, and Lincoln. Great, guys. So there's one thing we all have in common, and that's we love to grow revenue, right? So SalesLoft, I'll give a quick pitch of that, and then a little highlight after that. There's one thing that we focus on, and that's the customer acquisition portion, or the sales development portion of the customer acquisition machine. So from cold dark stranger, warm qualified lead, we've got 2 products, they help with that. Now, with that said, we've got a ton of t-shirts and little iPhone cool things to give out. There's the reason we came here, so please come grab some afterwards, and I'd love to talk to you guys in any way, shape, or form about any of that. But we love Sales Hacker. I love that everyone is here. The fact that you guys are here means that you're really dedicated to growing the revenue within your organization. sales development, market development, business development, whatever you want to call it, is incredibly important to growing the revenue of your company. I was talking to a couple people earlier. There was knobs put on different aspects of the this customer acquisition machine. Sales development has got that biggest knob, or market development or business development. So you guys sit in kind of like that high seat of being able to control that for your company. So round of applause for you guys all being here. Once again, my name is Sean. I'm with Sales Loft. We're happy to speak with you about what we do and how we help grow our customers' revenue. But more importantly, shout out again to you guys, Sales Hacker, Seth for putting this on, and all the people that spoke. So I'm between you guys and the beer, so let's go drink some more.